Hello and welcome. I thought a really fun reading list for autumn would be some fairy tale retellings. So I've spent a few weeks reading through various fairy tale retellings, and I wanted to share with you what I've read and what my thoughts are and recommendations are. So for this fairy tale retelling book list, I had two guidelines. Number one, for each book that I share, you'll only see a fairy tale one time. So there's a lot of retellings of Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, Ariel, all of these fairy tales, but I just wanted to share one version of a fairy tale retelling and not have multiple versions. Number two, I discovered that if an author writes a fairy tale retelling, the chances are they've written many. So I wanted to be sure that when I shared a book, you only heard about that author one time in this video. Okay, so I'm gonna give these in order of which ones I liked least up to the ones that I liked the best. So the first one is A Dream of Ebony and White, and this is by Melanie Cellier. This is just right inside of this whole series that she has. You don't need to read them in order. So this is the Snow White retelling. It is a YA novel, and it really was a lot of romance. So it was your typical strong female protagonist with the guy that she's in love with, very much in play throughout the whole novel. As far as fairy tale retellings go, it was a fun, quick read. Next, I wanted to read one of the Disney retellings, and this is Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. This was the one that I chose for the Ariel retelling. So Disney has this whole Twisted Tale series where they have the villains as part of it, and the ending is different than what was expected or what was in the movie. And there's so many of them. There's the Ursula one, which is this one. There's Beauty and the Beast. There's Rapunzel, Peter Pan even, Maleficent, Aladdin. So there's a whole bunch in this series. It was pretty simple language. The idea here is that Ariel doesn't win Prince Eric at the end, that instead Vanessa does, which we know is Ursula in human form, and Ariel still can't talk. And so it's the process by which Ariel goes through to try to right the wrong. Also, King Triton is missing, dead, they're not sure. So it's a pretty long, it's almost 500 pages and pretty predictable what's gonna happen, and not a lot of complex character development, I don't think. Spindles End by Robin McKinley. Again, Robin McKinley has written so many different fairy tale retellings. She has actually won Newbery medals and Newbery honors for some of the books she's written, and then she did Beauty and the Beast, Deerskin, Robin Hood, but this was the one that I chose for Sleeping Beauty. I love the cover of this, and there is a love story in there. I don't think you necessarily see it. My only struggle with this is there's a lot of magic, which says a lot for me because I love magic, but it was like saturated with it, and there were a lot of characters, and so in the beginning I was really struggling with trying to figure out where everybody fit and what all the characters were and how it was all connected. But the development of the two female characters in a friendship trope was really great. This is The Shadow of the Bear, a fairy tale retold by Regina Doman. So this is Snow White and Rose Red and the Bear fairy tale. This is one I read years ago, and I reread it for this to just make sure that I still really liked it, and I do. It definitely has YA themes of drug abuse, and there is some violence in it. It is Catholic, which is a little bit unusual, I think, but they talk about the Catholic religion, saying Hail Marys. It's not obnoxious or overdone. It's just a really great fairy tale retelling, you know, and I think if you're Catholic, you'll really love it that much more. And Regina Doman has also written other Catholic fairy tale retellings. It's not a very long read. I read it in an evening. It's less than 200 pages. I loved it. Like I said, it's a reread for me to the point where I remembered, oh, I should look that one up. The Storyteller's Daughter, a retelling of the Arabian Nights by Cameron Doki. So in The Storyteller's Daughter, this is the story of Scheherazade and the Thousand Nights, except that this gives Scheherazade's story. So it even says at the end that her story is lost in time. All that stays are the tales that she told, which of course we know, the Arabian Nights and the Thousand Tales. So, but this is kind of her childhood into young adulthood. There is magic in it, but it's not overdone, and I really liked the idea of diving into her story. Next is The North Child by Edith Pateau. This is also called East as well, if you can't find The North Child. This is the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale that I chose, and this, while it is long, it gets very intense actually pretty quick, and so it really, the plot progresses through where you just want to keep going and keep going. There are multiple character viewpoints, and so you are kind of flipping through a couple of characters, but it's a great Beauty and the Beast retelling and love story, and this is not just young adult but also middle grade as well. Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. This is a retelling of Grimm's fairy tale by the same name. Shannon Hale has written a lot of fairy tale retellings. I've read A Book of a Thousand Days by her, Princess Academy, and I think I've talked about this before. This is one of my favorite books ever. I love the twists and the perseverance and the character development and the magic that's in it and the romance. None of it is really overdone. It's just a really well told story. And this is about a girl who is expected to travel to go and meet a betrothed, as is the typical trope in a fairy tale. And along the way, she discovers that the people around her, she can't trust them, and she has to start fresh, and no one knows that she's a princess, and she's got to kind of build up her strength and be able to get the truth told. You can't do a fairy tale retelling at this point without reviewing Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is the Six Swans retelling with kind of a Asian flair. It's very similar to the Goose Girl, with the idea that she's a princess who she discovers people close to her don't have her best interests in mind, and she ends up having to start fresh and work hard and figure out how to get the truth told. Except in this one, she has family members that are part of the struggles that she has as well. It does say YA. There is some violence in there, but I would say there's no more violence than in Goose Girl, and these I think could both be middle grade as well. I loved the Six Crimson Cranes, and it's very obvious from the ending that she is planning on writing at least a sequel to it. She actually is also one of the ones who wrote part of those Disney Twisted Tales. She's one of those authors, so it looks like she's gone off on her own. This is definitely better writing than the Twisted Tale Ariel Ursula retelling that I read, so I'm kind of glad that she's gotten out of that Disney box and is writing her own stories. Cinder, which is my Cinderella pick. So this is the first one in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I also read Ella Enchanted, which is Gail Carson Levine, and this actually got a Newbery Honor Award, but possibly an unpopular opinion, I don't like Ella Enchanted, but I absolutely loved Cinder. I decided to do this fairy tale retelling and then discovered through watching a few booktube channels that I love that they're doing a Lunar-Along at the end of this year. And so this was the read for August. The next one is Scarlet, which I already have. This is Red Riding Hood. I'm sure it'll be great. I've heard some people say they liked Cinder better, but I am planning on reading the whole series after reading Cinder. So Cinderella is a cyborg. That's what this is. That's the whole premise of this. You follow along with the same process of the stepsisters, the mean stepmother, the prince, the ball, all of it, except that She's a cyborg. And then this is the Lunar Chronicles, hence the Lunar-Along idea of the reading group that's here on Booktube. But there are lunar people as well, not just people that are on Earth and cyborg. Really great if you love sci-fi, and honestly, even if you don't, I think you would love Cinder. Wildwood Dancing by Juliette Marillier. This is the 12 Sisters Dancing fairy tale. Another one that I read was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin Craig. People really love this, I will say, and this is the same fairy tale. So again, I wanted to review and tell you my favorites of different fairy tales by different authors, but I much preferred Wildwood Dancing to House of Salt and Sorrow. This is my favorite fairy tale retelling for the fall. It's got this beautiful cover. I loved the story. There's multiple lines of stories in here going on at the same time, and it's just great with the fall themes of enchantment, witches, vampires. The idea is with the 12 Sisters Dancing is that they are sneaking out at night to go to this kind of other world to dance. And it's the same thing with House of Salt and Sorrows, but this I just think is much better done. Here are my 12 favorite fairy tale retelling books, each one by a different author and a different fairy tale. If you have favorite fairy tale retellings that you want to share, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you've enjoyed. If you disagree with my opinions, please let me know that as well. I'd love to hear your reasons for why. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.